Hello, everyone. I am Shweta Agrawal, and super excited to be presenting on the Developer's Edge, crafting Gen AI features that win users. Um, I'll give my introduction quickly, and then we'll dive into what it means for developers to build Gen AI products. This is myself. I'm Chief AI Product Officer at Boston Technology. I work with founders, entrepreneurs, as well as a startup advisor. I have been working as a product leader, have launched products, multi-million dollars of products in large organizations and mid to small startup companies. I also help founders on go-to-market and product market fit. And given my background in product and tech, I have been working with launching the products and thinking the strategies and what technology we need to launch the product that will make customers use it again and again. So why don't we dive in and what is Gen AI? As we all know, for past couple of years, the huge advancement in AI has made us think differently how we can leverage AI and make it a partner, make it a buddy to help with our work, studies, whatever that may mean. So, as we all know, but let me give a quick deep dive into what is Gen AI. Gen AI is a type of artificial intelligence AI which is focused on creating new original content, which is text, images, audio, video, code based on the user prompts or the prompts that we give to the and it organizes in the way we want. And we all know a couple of examples, and I'm sure many of you have used it already day to day or just out of curiosity. I love to explore different tools, and I try to do and play around whenever I get to know about something interesting. So, for example, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, the LLMs which help to you give some prompt and it generates whether you need some research information, whether you are looking for planning for a trip, or whether you are planning to create a product, whether you're trying to create a code. Dolly and Midjourneys are some it's text to image, so it helps you to create images, and you can be more creative as you can. GitHub Copilot, an AI powered coding assistant which generates code, suggestions, functions, and even entire files, which helps the development team. And Jasper AI Copy.ai as well, those are content creation. If someone does not have a background in marketing or who is in marketing, they can use these tools to generate content, and it will save couple of hours or days to have that content. There are tons of other tools, but just to give you some examples, how Gen AI is expanding in different areas. As we know, for the past couple of years, Gen AI has become part of the daily lives, right? And it's growing so fast. And with over 10,000 Gen AI tools, which was launched last year itself in 2024, the market is booming with coming up with so many tools, but also at the moment we have to think of which tools make sense, meaning which tools will really help you. We cannot use 10 tools at the same time, but we have to really be strategic about which are the 2, 3 tools that will make my life easier as a developer, as a tech team. Um, with that being said, you have the innovation is there, the innovation will not stop, but we have to do a trade-off. If the innovation is there, do we have to just pick something, some tool, and just go with it, or we have to see, does that tool have new capability? Does that provide new promise, or it's ethical, right? At the end of the day, we have to think whether it's going to retain the users, and that's what is important. Only as every year, for example, thousands of tools are launched, but only 10 to 15% survive. Um, and that's when we have to think of, why do some Gen AI tools survive and thrive while others vanish in obscurity? Why Gen AI product fail beyond the shiny demos? As we are, you know, whether it's a small startup company or someone just have an idea, or people working on some creative product, um, GenAI demos often mask significant challenges that lead to product failures. And what I mean by that is it has to be simple to integrate in the real world workflows. So when people want to use AI, there are a couple of conversations whether it should be an AI powered product, whether it should be integrated in the workflows, or do we have to change end to end, or is it just one part of the workflow? Um, Without realizing or understanding that, it's hard to integrate. And then what it happens is it does not fit in the workflow and people are not able to use it. That means even though if Gen AI product is amazing, it cannot be implemented and used. A couple of areas, hallucinations, even though we use AI, we have to be mindful and we have to say like how the information is provided is real. Poor workflow integration, as I touched based on really identifying can we integrate, right? Whether it's, integrating with a small developers tool, which you are already using it, then if there is an innovation and the trust, depending on the industry, whether you are in the healthcare industry, finance, or legal industry, those industries are really sensitive and with the information, right? Because it has to deal with PHI, the patient's information, the financial informations, the legal information. So when the Gen AI product is developed, it has to be mindful of like how they can develop the trust, how they can make sure people in the information of the customers are safe and secure. Big differentiations, many tools have the capabilities which can be used um, for larger buckets, meaning if you want people want to use a product that will have something different, meaning you have to identify what is the value prop, right? So for example, let's take a use case, Jasper AI, which was launched a couple of years ago, and it was used as an AI writing assistant. And with the chat gpt, like OpenAI came up with the chat gpt, and with uh, the drastic use of ChatGPT, Jasper AI lost, a couple of its customers. I would say the value prop, right? Then the question comes from them, like, how do I differentiate and I keep the customers on the platform rather than the churn rate? Developers reality check. As we are developing, what we really need to think of, right? There's a product side, there are customers. As a developer, you have to think of practical tools that will solve the problems. Sometimes, without understanding what the problems are, we think like, oh, I just want to use this tech, I just want to use this technology. But what and who and why someone will use this technology, that's important, right? Um, think about what is existing and think about in the given market what is more reliable and if you can provide more transparency. For example, customers want, if you're building a product, as a developer we should think about how I can bring the customers and the product, meaning give them more ownership. And when they have more ownership, they want to use the product, right? For example, if you're giving some suggestions and the customers can say yes and no, and that means the customers know what's happening on the product or behind the scene. Some of the metrics like measurable time saving. So one of the things you have to think about how much time is being saved, the stack integration, right? The tech stack and how it's been getting integrated. For example, I know someone, I was talking to one of the developers who was working on one of the startup ideas, and they realized the third party vendor that they were using, the tools, they were changing their features. And because of that, they have to change and they have to cross check in their product because the change of the features from the third party was affecting their changes. So be mindful like how you have to integrate and what is going to be your path if there are any changes from the third party of the shelf product. Reliability and transparent, it has to be reliable in the long term. One another use case, GitHub Copilot, reduce the amount of repetitive and standard coding by 20 and it helped standard coding by 20-40%, and it integrated with popular IDEs and successfully helped with the Gen AI applications in the development process. A couple of pattern that you can think of, which is Copilot that accelerate workflows, right? So most successful Gen AI features often act as intelligent copilots. These tools help to reduce the frictions. So, couple of things that we can think about: speed enhancement. Co-pilots help to reduce the time spent on repetitive tasks, right? You don't want to spend the time on something that you're, for example, if you have to talk to a customers or you're getting the feedback, you have to include in your code, like from the different sources. You have a customer's feedback coming in, and you have to integrate in one platform. How you can do that, right? Reduce context switching. As developers, you might be working on a couple of different projects, and it should help. The AI capability should directly help you work in the environment. Don't have to context switch, from different applications. The third one is seamless integration, which is a big one because it takes a lot of time and effort and the investment as well if you're using something off the shelf. Good examples. Uh, there are a couple of companies which are using and integrating, for example, Nika use GitHub Copilot to automate their repetitive coding, which helps the developers productivity by 20%, which is huge. GitHub Copilot also provides real-time code suggestions, and that way the developers can decide whether they want to keep it or not. And 88% of the time, the GitHub provides accurate information. Cursor integrates chat and AI-powered editing features, which helps in the code editing. The second part is search that can be trusted. So think about trust is another big one, along with integration in the product. How you can verify the facts. AI powered. You have, if you're building the product as an engineer, you want to make sure how it is transparent, whether the information is accurate, right? We all know the hallucination that generates that come out of like AI, and we have to keep on training. But meanwhile, how do you make sure the information we have, whether it's cost checking, right? The solutions, a couple of the solutions we can think of is the retrieval and citations, right? Retrieval augmented generation, RAGs and citations. Use case for the citation, for example, we can think of Perplexity, right? Whether you are a student, whether you're an engineer, whether you are a professional or researcher, Perplexity AI stands out mainly because when you do some research, it will provide you with the sources. And what it does is like you can click on those and say, okay, that's an actual article. Someone has done the research, and it means it's not just throwing some information out there. So you still need to be human in the loop when you get the information to verify and say if that's accurate. Content generators tune for accuracy. And so one time I was playing around like, okay, what are the tools for, let's say, slide deck creations for presentations? And it gave a couple of, the tools which I knew before, like Canva, Gamma, Beautiful dot AI. And it gave another tool which I have never heard about. And I'm like, wait, is this a real tool? And I have to go and research, and it wasn't. So what it means is accuracy is important. So I have to, even if you're getting the content, you have to make sure it's right information. Some solutions, as we said, let me move on to the next one. Some examples are the RAGs, and which we'll dive more later as well. Embedded in workflow, not a separate tool. Gen AI features become invisible, indispensable part of the daily workflow, right? Augmentation that seamlessly integrates into a tool they already use and love. Think about as a user, there is a rule. So, as a developer, how do we know that what we are developing people will use, right? At the end of the day, we are trying to build the products that people want to use as a developer. And when you see the feature, whether you're developing or whether the product that you're working on, if you identify that people love you getting the feedback, the reviews that oh, people are using these features, they're loving it. If the next day, this is Sean Ellis rule, which is 40% rule, meaning if the next day, if you say to the customers like, hey, we are not going to continue with this product. If the 40% of the customers say like they're disappointed, that means they love the product. That means you have touched upon all the areas, whether it's accuracy, whether it's providing transparency, whether it's like integrating with their workflows or making and saving tons of the time, money, effort. So it means whatever you're developing is helping the users and you're winning the users. So with that mindset, thinking about what's the friction, right? Standardized standalone Gen AI apps often create friction by requiring users to export content, switch applications, and then import the Gen AI generated output back into the primary workspace. The goal should be successful Gen AI features provide intelligent assistant directly within the content of the task, which enhances existing capabilities rather than just replacing them with an external tool. And the third one is the outcome, which is the stickiness, like how you make sure the customer will come back to your product, they will buy your product, right? When Gen AI is deeply embedded, it becomes an integral part of the user's memory muscle. They want to keep on using again and again. Um, so what it means, like now you know what the customer want, and in the back end, as the data and engineering choices, build you have to build a solid foundation, right? So the quality and the specificity of the training data are critical for Gen AI models. The generic models will be trained on vast data sets that can be powerful, but often like the required for the specialized task. Even if you have large data, you want to make sense of what it really means, what I want to get out of that large data sets. Thinking about that will help you to, formulate how you want to use the data, right? Building domain specific data sets creates significance defensibility mode. So at the end of the day as well, you have large data set, you have the information, and as an engineer, you want your product to be built in a way that everyone wants to buy it, everyone wants to use it, right? And how you can do that, even if the customers love it, you also want to stand out in the market, meaning you have to have that competitor's advantage that no one can build the feature or the product that you have. Some engineering for reliability, which is RAGs and Guardrails. Let's deep dive a little bit about each to overcome the hallucination and ensure the trustworthy of the outputs. Engineering teams must implement robust reliability mechanism. What it means is RAGs connect LLMs to external knowledge bases, and then it retrieves the most relevant documents before generating responses, right? Industries such as healthcare, finance, legal, customer service deploy RAGs to enhance content accuracy, updatability, and minimize hallucination, because those are the industries which deals with very sensitive data of the patients and the finances. And the global RAG market was estimated around 1.2 billion in 2023 and is projected to reach around 11 billion in 20 by 2030, which will drive a lot of growth and integration. The next one is guardrails, where you have to ensure the safety and the compliance, right? Are layered with controls designed to keep Gen AI systems secure, compliant, and within the organization policy guidelines. As we are using Gen AI for so many things, right? We are working on different kinds of data sets. We are working on different information of the patient, of the customers, or whether it's patients. You have to be mindful of the data, right? How the data will be safe and secured, right? Whether you're expanding in different markets, you're going in US, Europe, India, like how the data will be managed, the rules and the regulations in each market is different, and you have to comply with those. So data privacy is important, enhancing encryptions, prevent exposure to sensitive information. Um, Content moderation, automating filtering to block harmful unverified outputs. Compliance. So some of the compliances, whether depending on the industries you're working on, it can be HIPAA or GDPR, and using the policy checks in place. And prompt engineering and real-time post-processing filters prevent the unsafe instructions and flags, the hallucination generated content. As we know, a couple of features as we spoke about overall, as an engineer, as a developer, what are the things we have to think about? Um, you have great ideas, right? You know what the product you want to build. Um, and you know who are the customers are, who are the target audiences are, what are the markets. Thinking of that, and with AI, Gen AI, you can do so much, right? Think about how I can build a product, how I can code or generate the product that people want to use. And it might include whether you are in healthcare industries, people want to use it, but the first question they ask is, oh, how my data will be handled? Is it safe? Because they want customers wants to use the product, but and it's easy to use. But the only inertia comes in when they don't know what's going behind the scene, meaning when they're not aware of like how the data is handled, uh, if the data has been used for training. And the third part is, as we spoke about, when the customers are included in the decision making process. So, for example, if your product has a couple of questions where in the workflow where you're asking the customers like, hey, how do you feel about integrating this, integrating that? When you're putting human in the loop in the product, in your tech, that will gain more confidence and trust from the customers. So as an engineer, think about, yes, I'm looking at the customers and what they need. The second bucket is, how can I develop a product that will have all the checks in place, meaning whether it's the transparency, whether it's accuracy, whether it's integrating with other tools. And if you're working in a company where they already have the tools that they have been using for long, you have to think about, can it get integrated with my current workflow? And if yes, how can I do that? Because as I gave an example before, even though when you go for off the shelf products and you have the current tech stack or current um, uh, systems, it might be challenging to integrate with your current one. So thinking about what might be the challenges and how I can overcome, because at the end of the day, you are building, you are developing the product that will save time, energy, and you want to have more customers using it. So, a couple of Gen AI features that I wanted to think about that will truly resonate and achieve the sustained adoption of the users. It will be user-centric, and that will also aligns with the technical capabilities. So at the moment, when I talk to so many founders, entrepreneurs, with the engineers, data scientists, mm, everyone can think of like, we want to build something, but at the end of the day, we are building something for the customers. How you can keep the customers in the mind. And I would also suggest, if you are doing, that's great. If you're not, as an engineer, sometimes you might not get chance to talk to the customers to really understand what they're doing, meaning with your product, right? Like how they're navigating the user flow. I would suggest, talk to the team and see like if you can talk to one customer or just attend a call and see what are the experiences are of the customer when they're using the product. What challenges do they have? Or even if you're getting the feedback from the customer, let's say when you are, working on implementing a new feature, you're thinking like, okay, this is my tech document. This is where I'm thinking of creating the user should be the flow of the user. Think about if you get chance to be in the call with the customers, that will help you to really think about how your customers, because the customers might not be a technical person. They just want to use the product, right? And that will help you as an engineer, as a developer, to really put yourself in their shoes and think in a way that will help you to build your product, right? That will help you to think about how you can obtain the workflow that the customers will love and use it. So, to give you more depth into it, focus on the workflow integration, which we touch based. Embed GenAI directly into existing tools and processes. And I would suggest have a list of the tools that you want to integrate with your current workflows and see what are the advantages and disadvantages of each. Meaning, how often do they upgrade? If they make any changes from their end, how it's going to impact your current workflows. And if you can automate those changes, those verifications automatically rather than doing it manual, because then you are adding more work for you when there are changes on the other tools, right? Avoid creating standalone applications that disrupt user habits. And the goal is to seamlessly augment, not replacement, right? The second one is constrain and fine tune models. Specialize your models for specific domain or tasks. Utilize fine tuning with relevant, high quality data to enhance accuracy and reduce generic outputs. Whether you are building product for edtech industry or fintech or health tech or insurtech, understanding who is going to use at the end and then providing the output based on their needs because um, that's what you're trying to do. Like you want to provide the output and accurate data that the customer wants. At the end of the day, try to identify who is your end user and what kind of information they might need. Third one is build trust with transparency, which we touched based on. Trust is really important with so many tools. Like even though we can see there are like tons of uh, free tools, um, they feel like, okay, do I want to sign up and do I want to pay for this tool? I don't know how my information is used or what I have to do with this tool, right? Meaning, they don't feel that the information is going to be safe and secure. So, if you can build the trust, that will take a long way. For provide citations if it's a product like Perplexity, confidence scores, and clear explanations of AI capabilities. When the customer log into your product, have some walkthroughs of the product, include the human in the process, and that will make them feel like, oh, they own the process. They own, for example, even if they are using your product, if you say, hey, these recommendations are provided based on the past history. So that means they know what you're providing and what information has been used, right? User must understand and rely on the output. Leverage proprietary data. So cultivate unique data set that give your GenAI features a competitive edge and deep domain expertise. It creates the value prop, right? When you're providing some features which no one is using. And the last one is continuously continuing on measuring the adoption. At the end of the day, you want to see if the users are, if you're acquiring the customers, users on your platform, or they leaving the platform after 2 months, 3 months, right? You want to keep on the feedback loop coming from the users and see how your product is performing, how your technical features are performing. And to wrap it up, I'm happy to take any questions that you may have. And these are a couple of questions based on what we discussed, just to give you some idea of what you can think about based on our discussion. Happy to take any questions. And if you like to stay in touch, this is me. And thank you so much.